Hey guys, TheJordude here, back again with another Shadowverse video. This video is sponsored by Cygames. You can download and play Shadowverse for free with the link down below in the description. You can play it on all your mobile devices as well as on your PC via Steam and the Android and Apple app stores. If you want to get more competitive into Shadowverse, there's going to be the NGE Shadowverse Open Season 3 starting soon, as well as the Grand Prix, which is set towards the end of the year, but qualifications will be starting up sometime soon. Stay tuned for more details for that. So in this video of my TheJordude's Strats, preparing for your tournament that's going to be coming up soon, whether it's going to be qualifying for the Grand Prix, playing in the Shadowverse Open for NGE, or just some kind of miscellaneous smaller tournament. Most of these tournaments in Shadowverse involve the Conquest format. So what Conquest is that you bring 2 or 3 decks. There might be a ban, there might not be a ban. In Japan, there's usually not a ban. They usually just bring 2 decks and it's a best of 3. However, in the Western scene, you're going to be seeing a lot of ban formats. So it's a best of 3, but you bring 3 decks and you ban 1 deck from your opponent's lineup so that you're left with 2. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that as well as the target strategy. They're both pretty similar. They're kind of like parallel to each other. So the ban strategy is kind of like how you want to build your lineup to expecting to disclude a certain deck from your opponent. So maybe I'll get more into the examples later on, but maybe you want to ban like a certain aggro deck every time, and then now you can build the rest of your lineup knowing that you're going to be banning that one bad matchup. So that deck could probably beat all of your other decks, but you're banning it, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. So thinking about that, building your lineup around knowing what deck you're going to ban, that's your ban strategy. Target strategy is very similar as well. So target strategy is like you're expecting your opponent to bring this deck or a certain type of deck, and then you build your lineup around beating that certain deck. So that kind of goes around like the levels of strategy. So both the ban strategy and the target strategy builds up from the previous 2 videos I had, which was the levels of strategy in your lineup and the types of decks that you could choose into your lineup. So the best way to explain this type of these strategies further on is through examples. These are of course rough examples, and these decks are decks currently seen play in the meta at the time of recording this video. So a type of ban that you could have would be, say you're playing aggro sword, aggro blood. So you got the ambush sword, you got the aggro blood, and then aggro dirt rune. Maybe all these decks are bad against Neutral Haven, which is very possible. Neutral Haven, very explosive deck, gets the board early, it challenges your board, and it might be hard for you to develop an early board as an aggro deck to get that chip damage in. So it's just overall a bad matchup. So if you went for this level of strategy and the types of decks you chose were 3 aggro decks, they're all bad against Neutral Haven, then your ban strategy will be banning Haven pretty much every time. More so if the deck lists are open, then you know it's Neutral Haven, then you could for sure ban it. Although if the deck lists are closed, like most tournaments, you might not know that it will be Neutral Haven. However, you might have the meta read that Neutral Haven is very strong right now, so most players are probably bringing it in their lineup. So if you see it, you can ban it and go about your day. Now your decks are good against most other decks. So that would be like an example of a ban strategy you could do. Another strategy you could do is like, say you have 3 control decks. So you got control blood, you got mid-range shadow. That's what I said in the previous video, like you can mix up your lineup so that they're not 3 types of decks. You can mix it up so you have like a control deck and now a mid-range deck, and then this is just a ramp dragon with a combo in it. So maybe these 3 decks, it's a well-rounded lineup. You have 3 types of decks in it, but maybe they're all bad against OTK Roach, right? Because OTK Roach, it could deal with mid-range shadow actually quite decently, especially with like Twins Assault, and it's good matchups against Blood and Dragon. So maybe this lineup in particular is like an N3 level strategy. It beats like the N1, all the meta decks, and like the anti-meta decks. However, it's weak against OTK Roach in particular, or maybe against D-Shift. So if your opponent brought Forest, almost every Forest is going to be like an OTK Roach, so you could go for that ban strategy. If they don't have a Forest but they have a rune, it's a possibility that they might have a D-Shift rune, so you could ban that instead. So that's just another example of a ban strategy you could do. And then for my other examples, I have like ban control. This is like if you have 3 mid-range decks. Mid-range decks are typically slower, so like neutral, neutral rune, and I have like neutral sword. These are all just 3 neutral decks. They're more mid-rangey, so if your opponent has like control blood where they have revelations, they have so many removal tools and AoEs, it could be a really hard matchup for neutral decks, neutral mid-range decks to do well. And so with these 3 neutral decks, I might want to ban the control blood, which targets board heavy neutral mid-range decks in particular. So that would be another strategy. The other ban strategy I had here was ban aggro. Aggro is very popular in tournaments, so if you decide to go for like a lineup where you're targeting control, maybe you're targeting N2 level strategies, N3 level strategies, so you would bring like OTK Roach, D-Shift rune, and then Neptus Shadow. Maybe you want to ban an aggro deck because you can't deal with the early aggression consistently. So the most aggressive deck would be either like Ambush Sword or Bat Aggro Blood. Those are just really fast decks that could burn you out quickly. So maybe you want to ban one of those with that level of with that ban strategy. Target strategy is very similar. It's actually very similar to what I talked about before in my previous video about your levels of strategy. So if you're going for an N2 strategy, that's actually more so of like a target strategy, because if you think about it, so if you recall from the first video I did, where an N2 strategy might be control blood and like control haven and control shadow, and maybe they're all really good against aggro decks, or more so they're better against like mid-range neutral decks. So if you expect everyone to bring like neutral mid-range haven, you could go for the target strategy where you're targeting that deck in particular. It also does well against other neutral decks, so that would be like in target strategy. So yeah, target strategy is more so similar to like the N2 level strategy or N3 strategy in the levels of strategy. Ban strategy is more similar to like the types of decks you choose, because you want to build your line. Both of them actually, you want to build your lineup in a way that you have your strategy planned out already. You know what you want to be good against, you know what you're bad against, so you can ban out. And that's basically what you need to think about before entering that tournament with a certain lineup. Especially, the whole world changes when there isn't a ban in the tournament. Like, so if you're playing in a Japanese tournament and they go 2 decks, best of 3, no ban, then obviously you won't have the ban strategy anymore, and you have more of a target strategy. So if that's the case, then you're going to be thinking more towards your target strategy. What's the best deck that most people will include in their 2-deck lineup, and then you could try to counter that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about the ban strategy, target strategy, let me know. Comments are down below in the description. If you guys don't really know what I was talking about for the levels of strategy and the types of decks, those are in my previous videos. I'll have that in my outro, so you guys could just click on one of those thumbnails to go back to those videos. And if you like the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and follow me on my social media links down below in the description. As always guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. "朝をむさぼり夜を吐き出し